And the population is predominantly CA or finance specific? Is it, or is it like a mixed bag sort of thing?
I think it will be predominantly, like you said, a finance background. Most of the
Okay.
students must be pursuing their CA, CCA, CMA courses such.
Okay.
So, but still, for these students to get into, big companies like ACCA, with ACCA, you can actually get into many financial companies like EY, the Big Four.
Yeah. I've actually had a lot of CS myself while I was at IBM because we
Correct.
have our own finance division, obviously, which comes under the CFO office. And
Mm-hmm.
because EA hiring is, kind of very different because it doesn't come under business school, it doesn't come under engineering school. So
Correct.
it is always like a miscellaneous thing. So it will, because it's business sort of related, so it would come under, my kitty wherein, because it's very differently made, right? So you have articleship and then, it's structured quite differently. So yeah,
Correct. Correct.
it's
So
a
I
good.
think I have maybe one or two um, interesting questions when we start off.
Yeah, yeah, sure, sure.
With regards to CA and ACCA, because I've been in in touch or contact with a lot of faculties, so I hear what a lot of them say. So I just want to see if what they are giving out is
Yeah, like
let's
more
see.
industry perspective as to how things are. So
Correct, correct. It's very important to know all points of view when we are dealing with the students.
correct.
So I think let's not wait much more. We are already 7:30, and I think we can start. So, good evening, everybody. Good evening to the Lakshya family, to all the students, to all the participants who have joined us to meet with Mr. Jaskaran here. Welcome to the webinar, Mr. Jaskaran, officially. So, to everybody who's joined here right now, I'll give you a small brief about Mr. Jaskaran. Mr. Jaskaran Kohli, just like the cricketer Virat Kohli, has graduated from a Christ College in Bangalore with HR and finance in his BBA, HR management and personal administration in his BBA course. Since then, he's worked with a lot many big companies such as Reliance Retail, IBM, and finally he founded his own consulting company known as BeyondCV Consulting in November 2020, and he has been a full-time participant, entrepreneur, come business owner since I believe January of 2021. So he's a guy with a lot of facets to his life. So once again, welcome to this session. Our students are actually eagerly waiting to have a interactive session with you in order to up their skills in how to build a CV. Coming
Yeah,
to the point that this COVID has actually put up a remote work a lot more in the forefront and communication through computer screens rather than personal screens. So CV has come to the forefront of any job applicant.
mhm.
So let's hear from you on how HR manager or HR personal actually sees the CV, sees the candidate, and then decides or not decides to take him for the job.
Sure, sure. So thanks, Gautam. So I think so. It's lovely to be a part of this. So I'll just give you a brief as to how we'll go about it. So for the attendees, so what I have a short sort of a presentation, which basically as the suggestion, resume tips. So basically those are my suggestions. So I've worked in the recruitment space. So I've used to manage the business and design school hiring for IBM. So basically that's how I got my exposure in terms of hiring, and this is something that I'm really passionate about. So now I'm on the other side, from giving people jobs to now kind of enabling them, a step towards their dream job or their internship. So basically that's
Correct.
from my skill set perspective. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share uh, a small presentation that I have, and everything in that presentation is made by me. Whatever screenshots that you see are of my own clients, right? I can't share their profiles, but basically those are the actual CVs of my clients. So it's not something that is Googled or something. And I'll be sharing a few tips. Then what we have is randomly picked about 4 5 CVs which are of your you all from Lakshya. I'm going to just quickly review it. Please take everything with a pinch of salt because I have a bit of experience. So as a recruiter, you would review like hundreds of CVs on a daily basis. So I've reviewed thousands. So I might be a little bit harsh, but don't take it to the heart. Again, I'm gonna just share. My intention is to make it better. And at the end of the session, we kind of close it with a Q&A. And Gautam, if you
Okay.
have any questions, or students have any question, they can put it on the chat. They can put it on, they can unmute themselves and share. Please keep the timer on me, so you can just tell me when I'm kind of boring.
Sure, sure,
And
sure.
then at the end of the session, I'll also share my socials with you guys. So in case you want to kind of connect with me, you need any sort of mentorship. So in addition to workshops, I will do one-on-one things for my clients. Basically,
Right.
if you want to get personalized, CVs built or something, more than happy to help. So I'm gonna just start with just you can just let me know if you can share if you can see my
Yes.
screen at like the visible mode.
Yes, Jaskaran. We are able to see your screen.
Presentation is on, right? Not my desktop. It's a
Yeah.
presentation.
Yes. Presentation. You're correct.
Okay, great. So I think pretty much covered. So my name is Jaskaran, and I'm the founder of BeyondCV Consulting. The name is BeyondCV, that you look beyond the CV, but this workshop is on the CV, so that's fine. And previous to this, I worked as a talent acquisition partner at IBM. So that is one of the three roles that I did there. And again, this is something that I believe in, that hiring is like picking stocks, and price is not the only thing that determines the value of a stock. Similarly, you'll have to look beyond the CV as well, that the skill sets that you have and how you put forward. But this is still more on the similar line, that CV does play a very pivotal role, when it comes to getting noticed, right? Only then you can go for a group discussion, you can go for an interview. This is just an overview of basically the services that we provide. So I'll share the links if you want to kind of reach out to me, you may. Right. So first we're going to start about what is the purpose of a resume, right? So this is something that a lot of people have in mind. The first thing is that, let's say you're 25 years old, 24 years old, whatever age that you have, right? It's really difficult for you to summarize your entire life, you summarize your skill set, your achievements, your passion, right? So a CV is a mechanism through which, through a one pager or a two pager, you share whatever experiences you have, what your ambitions are, and what you want to highlight, right? So that's particularly the purpose of a resume. It's also a reference point for conversation and interviews. So if you notice, any person who's interviewing you, either they'll have a physical copy of your CV or they'll have a digital copy of your CV open, just to, so a lot of times the questions that are asked in your CV are or during your interview are based on your CV. So it's really important to only put those points which you have genuinely done. Like, a lot of people, what they do is they oversell. Let's say they've not gotten an achievement, they still write it. If you don't have a skill set, I'll recommend don't putting it, because you will get caught at the interview round, right? So a resume is a reference point for the interview process. Thirdly, it's a method of getting noticed by employers, right? So, for example, LinkedIn has now become a digital sort of a CV, and you have the conventional, the PDF or the Word CV that you would set out. So, if you guys would have noticed, with time, the number of applicants has increased. So now all the companies use ATS, which is applicant tracking system, which is basically a software through which, so let's say I'm a recruiter and I receive, let's say, 1,000 applications. I'm not in the physical capacity to review those 1,000 applications. So what I do, I have a software at my disposal. I put in the keywords that my hiring manager is looking for, right? Because you need to understand, a recruiter does not hire for himself or herself. A recruiter hires for the company or for the hiring manager. And what happens is, the system will automatically, let's say, flush out, let's say, 850 CVs, and will only give me, let's say, 100 or 150 CVs, and that I will review. So it's very important to have that ATS compliant resume as such. And again, as I mentioned, it's a mode of evaluating or screening. So CV is the first part of your screening process. So basically, that's the brief background of what the history of the CV, and what, you need to understand why is it required, so you can structure your CV well. So this is an interesting question. How much time, this is on average, is spent by an individual on the resume? So I would love to know if you can guys, just put it on the chat, what you feel is an ideal time. So I'll just wait for like 4 5 seconds. So let's see, 2 minutes. Okay. Anyone else? 15 minutes. You guys are very optimistic. 1 minute. Okay, I'll give you a hint. It is under a minute. Okay, I'll give you one more hint. It is under 30 seconds. Let's make this fun. 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 6 seconds, 10 seconds. I think now you guys are getting kind of warmer and closer. So it's actually 7 seconds. So this is more of an average time. So what I mean by that is, let's say if I get your CV, when I quickly glance at it, it will take me 7 seconds to decide that should I take it forward or should I not take it forward. Obviously, if I take it forward, then I will spend maybe a minute or two max reading it. And if I give it
Mhm.
to a hiring manager, again, hiring manager depend. It's up to their discretion how busy they are, or how good they find your CV, and that is there. So there are two aspects which I feel that get you noticed. Is first is the content, and second is the
Mhm.
design. A lot of times your design is so it pops out that you actually want to pick up that CV or read that CV, right? So there are
Okay.
both aspects to it. So it's all about getting that attention in 7 seconds. It's just like how YouTube works, right? So if you will not look, it just take you 7 seconds to decide if you want to watch a YouTube video,
Correct.
right? So basically that's how short the span is. Now I'm going to talk about the resume structure. Again, this is not a standardized structure. I'm not saying that you have to follow this. So pretty much you have what you have in the CV, that you have the banner, which is at the top of the CV, wherein you mention, your full name, your designations. Let's say you're a student or you're a professional. You have your contact details. Really important to share your email ID, your phone number, your location, right, and your LinkedIn. If you have a LinkedIn, if you don't have a LinkedIn, I would recommend creating a LinkedIn account. There are a lot of resources which you can refer. Have a good LinkedIn profile because that is also your digital CV, right? The
Got it.
second aspect is a summary, right? It's very a lot of people don't write it. So basically, what is a summary? It's, let's say, a two or a four liner, sort of a para, which basically gives me an overview. So let's say if I want to go through your CV, it gives me an overview. So let's say if I want to summarize myself, I'll write, okay, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm an HR professional, I have my degree in education in HR, and what are skill sets that I have. So within 2-3 lines, you get to know a little bit about me, and then you can proceed towards reading my CV.
Mhm.
Now there are two sections which are very important, which is work history, which is your professional experience, and education. These are
Correct.
interchangeable. It's up to you what you want to highlight. So I'll be sharing a few samples of mine. So let's say I have a client who's an assistant vice president at a reputed bank, and so she has done her education way back, like 20 years ago. And again, the degree doesn't match exactly with what her role is. So her education is on the last page of her CV, or it is ranked lower. And there's another client of mine who's a director in HR, and he has amazing education. I'll show you his education. He has done international multiple degrees. So for
Okay.
him, what we have done is we move the education up so that So it's all about what you want to highlight. So the way you structure your CV is whatever you feel is your strong point, always put that first. So if you feel you work in
Mhm.
a good company, you work in a good role, highlight that first. If you feel your education is more valuable, maybe I'll put my education first, right? Then
Mhm.
obviously, and the most important is the skills part, right? So you have to highlight what are your technical skills and your soft skills. So technical skills are those skills which help you do your job. So let's say if you're in finance, so, auditing, tax, investment banking, private equity, venture capital, accounting, these are tally, whatever software that you use, they're all technical skills. Second aspect is your soft skills. So you have leadership, collaboration, right? So these are soft skills that we look for, right? Learning agility, growth mindset, right? So you need to highlight that. And the optional section is obviously your awards and achievements. So again, don't go way back. Don't highlight awards that you would have received in third or fourth grade. Keep it professional. Something that you would have received in college, something you would have received at your workplace. You can highlight that, and also a few interests and hobbies. These are optional, but a lot of people want to know you personally. So it's good to highlight, what you're passionate about apart from the work. But again, this is an optional section. I would recommend putting it at the last. So,
Mhm.
any questions up till now regarding the structure, since it forms the basis of the entire session? So, Gautam, I can't see the chat because I'm shaking my screen. So, if there is something that comes up, you can
For
just
sure.
let.
For sure. For sure. I think most of them are still going through or maybe taking down notes on what you have shared. So I
Sure.
have a question from my end.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of skills do you guys look for more? Does it actually pertain to each job that you guys are looking the CV for, or do having a overall skill set in each of the parts actually help you does it make you have a better chance?
Right. So I'll tell you, firstly, you should never have a standardized resume. What I mean by that, I'm not saying that you have to change your design every time. What I'm trying to say is whenever you apply for a job, point number one, go through the job description very carefully. I tell you what I do. Let's say I'm applying for that particular job. I will copy paste the entire job description,
Mm.
paste it in a Word format or whatever software is compatible with you. Take a highlighter and highlight the important points. So you need to understand it's just like giving an exam. If you don't read the question paper, you'll never get the answer right? You have to read the question only, then you can get the answer. So you'll be surprised to know, Gautam, most of the answers lie in the job description that we give. But unfortunately, people just look at the job title, the company name, the compensation, and the location. That's all they look
Correct.
at.
Correct.
And
Correct.
I mean, we spend a lot of hours writing these job descriptions. So I would say, leverage that. So within the job description, you'll find whatever skill sets are we looking for.
Okay.
You'll see we want in managers, so maybe we want collaboration, we want leadership, we want working in a team environment, working in a fast-paced environment, right? So basically, it's based on that. So you have to go to the job description. And again, for example, let's say you're applying for an auditor role, right? An auditor role in an IT company is very different from an auditor role in a finance-based company or a consulting company or like a big four. So it's not
Correct.
that
Correct.
an auditor in both these companies will be the same. So go through the profile very diligently and calibrate your CV.
Resume accordingly.
Yeah.
Correct. So we have another question from one of our participants here.
Yeah.
Her question is basically the summary, should it be written in a point-wise manner or should it be in a lengthy paragraph kind of manner?
First, it should not be lengthy at all. As I mentioned, it should be 2 to 3 lines. So what happens, again, I'll see if I have a few screenshots. Like, let's say if the summary is long, let's say it's a 4 liner or a 5 liner, I'll split it into two so that it becomes easy to read. Otherwise, if it's like 3, 4 lines, you can put it in one small para, or you can split it into two, but
Got
not
it.
more than that. Is what I'm trying to say. Don't make it an essay.
Also,
Yeah.
I'm sorry I cut you off there.
No, I was done with that. So don't make it an essay, is what I said.
Got it. So there's one more person who's asking, should we attach a photo in our resume?
Yeah, so that's actually a very good question. Firstly, uh, there are both pros and cons to it, right? So I'll tell you the pros. The pros is that a photo CV gives a very personal vibe. It's more
Hmm.
vibrant, and obviously pick a good photo. Obviously, don't put a dull photo. Then your profile might be good, but just because of a photo, it should not be compromised, right? Second
Correct.
thing is this is the negative of it. So I'm not sure how aware the students are, but there's something called as diversity and inclusion. So all companies are now moving towards diversity and inclusion, wherein it doesn't matter what gender you have, it doesn't matter what color you are from, what country you are from, right? But a lot of time what happens is if you put your CV, a lot of, I don't know, you might lose out on opportunity. I'm not sure if I can put it correctly, but let's say, a lot of times you feel that maybe your religion or your skin or tone or, something might not get you that job, or you feel you might feel biased, right? So
Hmm.
in that regards, I would say not put a photo. But if you ask me personally, it's an optional thing. If you feel comfortable, you can put it. So I
Correct. So
have
it depends on the comfortability of the person who's putting out the CV for the interviewer to see.
absolutely, absolutely. It's not like just because you put a photo, you look a certain way that you will get this thing, right? So it's up to you. If you feel comfortable, you can put it.
Correct. Let's move on to the next question. So we have a bit more questions coming in. The next question is, since we are basically dealing with finance students who are either pursuing CA or ACCA, they do have an
Right.
internship period like we spoke about in between. So can they
Right.
add this as their experience history?
Yes. I'll come to that. So basically, this is the starting of the presentation. I'm going to go through
Got
that
it.
section now.
Got it.
So,
So I think we
I'm
can move on to the next slides. So I have
correct.
read all the questions. I have actually categorized it. As and when it comes up, we can get it answered.
Right. So basically,
But
so we are starting with the structure. The first that you have is the banner. Again, if you can see, this is of my client only, but I've made it into a template. So if you see, you can put your, full name, your designation, which is, so if you're a student, it's always good to put finance enthusiast, finance aspirant, or MBA candidate like that, right? Email ID should always be there. Contact number should always be there. city or country should be there so that I get to know where you're from, right? And what work location are you targeting, something sort of that. LinkedIn, if you have, please create it and add the URL over there. Photo, again, I've kept it blank. The basically the messaging is that if you want to keep, you can keep it. And this is also, so this I've also got a sample of a summary, right? So you can go through it. So basically, if you look at this summary, it has everything. It has the adjectives: result oriented, people focused. This is something which dynamic, something that I would look for in an HR professional. So he has a designation HR business partner. How much work ex does he have? So he has about 4 years of work ex. And what all skill sets he has? So he has strategic, HR management, HR transformation, performance management, etc. Right. So basically, this is a sample, and this is all of my clients. So this is all, real things, right? So
Correct,
basically,
correct.
this is what the banner is. Um, Pretty much basic. I think I've already covered this. Photo is option, and these are the things. So last thing is website. So a lot of people do blogs, right? They have some sort of a blog, or they do some sort of freelance work. Always good to include the website. So for example, in my CV, I've included my website so that if someone wants to check out my website. If you have a blog, you have a page, you have a hobby that for which you have something digital, you can share the link to that so that the reviewer can check it out.
Got it.
Yeah. So basically, this is more of actually the same particular client's CV. So again, you have the summary and the timeline. So this is something optional that I've added. I just wanted to show you that how graphic a CV can be. So I also do graphic designing with my hobby. So all of my
Okay.
CVs have a certain, different.
Design element.
Yeah. So if you look at this color palette, it's all gradient. So because my idea is that I am confident that my content is good, but I also want the design to be good, so that when a person views it, they want to read it, right? So basically, if you look at this, rather than showing, so basically it's a career timeline. So let's say in one go, I get to see, okay, wherever this person has worked, I get to know, okay, he has done his BTech, then he has worked for 2 years, then he did his MBA from XLI, which is a good college. Then he's worked at Shell India, and now he's working at DBS Bank. So he's also from a finance sector. So I've tried to get people from finance backgrounds. It's basically, this
Correct,
is a sample of one of my clients' CV, but
correct.
basically this is how you can structure it.
Structure. So we have a question there regarding the timeline that you just showed. Is it necessary that students should actually give their marks while
No,
giving their? Yeah, please talk on it.
no, it's optional. If you notice below timeline, I've written optional. So basically, I put it for those clients who have like 10 years of work ex, 15 years of work ex, or maybe they want to highlight what they've done. So it's all personalized. I don't do
Would you
that.
say it's actually detrimental to put the marks if, let's say, some student has very good scores consistently in every place?
Marks should be put, because marks is also, it's for students. Marks should be there because as a recruiter, I have a lot of validation criteria. So let's say if let's say IBM has a policy 60% plus. So let's say these are real scenarios. So if you don't have that, then I can't hire you. So you have to put some bit of, like, if you're an executive, you've done your education 10 years before, I will say, okay, screw it.
No issues.
Yeah, if you're currently a student, I would recommend putting it CGP, and a lot of companies have that. If you apply for a BCG or a Bain, sorry to say, but they are very marks focused. They ask for your CAT score, GMAT score, and even ranks they ask for. So they are
Okay.
they have this academic thing. So I would recommend, if you're a student, please put the marks. But again, I'll come to the education section.
Yeah,
So
let's
if you have questions regarding the section that we're speaking about, feel free to ask so that I can proceed further. Right. So again, this might look lengthy, but actually it's not, because it's like a shorter version of the screenshot. But again, so this is an assistant vice president at a reputed investment bank, MSGS, some sort of thing. So I will not take the names. You can imagine MSGS, those sort of thing. Right.
Okay.
Again, so you look at her summary, right? It's short and crisp. It's not too lengthy for the experience that she has. It gives you an overview of the skill set, experience she has, and also quality traits, right? So again, here also we have, so she's a strategy leader. So dynamic, driven strategy leader with 12 years of experience, and what all experience she has. So, corporate strategy, risk governance across diverse banks in US, Europe, India. So I get to see that okay, she has a lot of international exposure. And another thing that she also has is always communicate your value. Like I feel that you should. So let's say she will be hired for a senior executive position, right? Maybe a VP or an SVP or something. So what value does she bring to the table? So she's saying that she enables companies to meet strategic and business objectives and stakeholders requirements by through business transformation, through various, high value initiatives. So there are a lot of deals which happen in these investment banking firms, right? So basically, again, I'm not saying that. So these are for reference, correct? So basically, what I'm trying to say is in a summary, always highlight your personality traits, which is your soft skill. Always highlight your technical skill, and always tell what are you currently doing. So if you have work ex, how much work ex do you have? If you're studying, what degree are you studying? And if you can, always try to put whatever value that you can add. So let's say if I'm a
Bring to the
human resource
company.
professional, I would say okay, looking forward to building the human aspect in human resources. So that's a very catchy line, but it communicates why you are so special. So always have.
Correct.
So any questions till the summary?
No, I think there's one question if the summary and cover letter are the same, or
No.
are they different?
Cover letter is a different document, which is a one-pager document, which basically talks about what you're doing, what do you want to do. It's addressed specifically to a person. So it's in a hiring manager. So it's more of a like you do in letter writing, right? So application for leave. So you write, okay, dear X and Y, I would like to apply for leave, blah blah blah. Yours sincerely. So it's like that. So cover letter is like that, wherein you tell the person, you introduce yourself, you share your values, you share what you want from them. So let's say you want to apply for this job, and then you end with that. I look forward to have the opportunity to work with you. So it's a different
Got,
thing altogether.
got it. Got it.
You would require
Yeah.
another workshop for that. It's
let's
that
let's
big
put it
concept.
down sometime. Yeah, let's put
You
it
just
down the road
practice it.
maybe.
It's that big a concept. It's a totally different thing. So summary is different. So it's a basically brief about your career journey so far in your resume.
Got it. Got it, Jaskaran. I think we can shift. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, this was the client that, so he's actually my mentor. So he's also from IBM. So I've just shared his profile. So basically, again, so now we move to the education section, right? So if you look at his profile, so he has about 19 years of work ex. He's an associate director at HR, right? Quite senior. But for him, what we have done is rather than putting the education later, we've kept it above his professional experience. Why? Because the education itself is so great, right? So it's all about what you want to highlight. So if you feel that your certification is very good, your institute is very good, you can move the education bit up. And obviously, if you are a fresher or something, you will obviously have the education bit up, right? So for example, this is just a screenshot of his thing. And obviously, now I wanted to highlight his education more, so I've added logos to it so that it makes it pop.
Yeah,
Uh,
it
yeah, so
looks wonderful.
yeah, so you can see that he's done executive education, a lot of certification, a lot of his education is international. So if he wants to apply for US roles or something, you know, you will not have any issue. So it's basically made as per that. So what
Correct.
you should include in your education section, again, here we'll come to the question that you guys asked for. Firstly, the name and name of the degree, the official name. So please don't write BBA. You might know what BBA is, but a lot of other people might not know what BBA is. So even if it is ACCA or CA or something, always put the full form and the abbreviation in brackets. Correct? Always put
Correct.
the specialization. So let's say I have done, a degree executive course from, let's say, Cornell. But what? So let's say it's an advanced certificate in HR and executive leadership. So if you have specialized in a degree, always put that. So it could be human resources. Even if you've done, let's say, I'm not sure how you guys do it, but let's say finance in particular something. Maybe you have majors in investment banking or you have majors in private equity, put that. So I'm not sure how the course works,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
try to highlight what your specialization is. Maybe two or three subjects you can write. Let's say
Correct.
tax,
Correct.
audit, right? Name of the university, again, if it's an accredited body, you can also put the name of the body. So ACCA, whoever grants this ACCA, you can have. They'll obviously have some official body, right? So
Correct. Correct. Correct.
chartered accountant might have some board or bureau or something that official is there. Board of chartered accountant, which issues uh, the degree itself, right? So you can,
Correct.
right? And obviously the city or country. It's always good because a lot of times, let's say there's a college NMIMS. Now it's in every part of India, right? So it's good to so that I understand, okay, if you're from Bangalore, NMIM, or you're from Amity, for example, it's everywhere now, right? So it's always good to put the city and country where you've graduated from, and always put the start and end year. Month is optional, but start and end year, so that I get to know, okay, when you have done that particular degree. Let's say
Mm-hmm.
2015 to 2017, 2020 to 2022. So that I get to see, okay, when are you graduating or when you have graduated. And again, you will find the criteria of CGPA and percentage. Again, so he's an executive, so for him it's not required. No one is going to look at his CGPA now. But
Correct.
again, if you're a student, put the CGPA and percentage, whichever is, whatever methodology that you have, that you follow. And again, if you have, let's say you're in the third year and let's say you have a 4 year degree, you can put the aggregate till whatever you have. And in the brackets, you can put till third year. I hope I am making it clear. So whatever you have till now, you can put the percentage or the CGPA on that, but don't leave it blank. Is what I'm
Okay.
trying to say.
Got it. You need it to be filled so that it actually stands instead of leaving blanks. It shows a detrimental value
Right.
to the person who's viewing it.
Otherwise, what's going to happen is the recruiter might have to call you and ask you, okay, what is your percentage? Can you email it to me or something? It's better that you can have it there only, because for a lot of companies, it is a mandatory sort of criteria.
Especially when it comes to freshers.
It's not about freshers. What I say, but so I'm like, you guys might be going in for a campus hiring on an early professional hiring. So yes, in that regard, yes.
Yes. Okay.
So because a lot of people do MBAs after 4, 5, 6 years of work right? So they are not exactly freshers, but yes, the criteria still applies for them, right? So
Correct.
let's
Correct.
say you have 6 years of work you are graduating from XLRI, but if you require, let's say, a 60% passing, then you require a 60% passing. The
That's
6 years
correct.
cannot compensate for it, is what I'm trying to say. So put that always in your uh,
CV.
CV. And
Correct.
any academic achievement you want to highlight. So let's say a lot of people get, let's say, AIR 1, 2, 3, whatever AIR you got. You want to highlight that, okay, I've done CA, but my AIR was this. Or, a lot of people want to highlight, let's say, in colleges, you have Dean's Merit List or scholarship, that I received scholarship. You can always add a one liner, okay, that this is that you have achieved. Up
Correct.
to you.
That's a feel good information you are giving the person sitting at the other end.
Correct. So I get to know, because let's say if I'm hiring, let's say I'm visiting again Cornell, right? So there everyone is from Cornell, but if I see Cornell with Dean's Merit List, then you get noticed a
Correct.
bit.
Correct.
So whatever,
Correct.
if you have a sort of an achievement, could be a rank, could be some award like I mentioned, merit list or something, and put that.
Yeah.
So now we move to the most interesting bit for me, but again, you guys predominantly would be freshers, so it's gonna be the work experience section. So if you notice, I've tried to pick up that CV which has kind of everything in it, right? So basically, what I'm trying to tell you, by so don't go by the structure; it is totally optional. What I'm trying to say that always put your internship under work experience. Don't put it under projects or something, because irrespective of it being paid or not,
Mm-hmm.
I'll repeat it again. Irrespective of the internship being paid or not paid, if you have worked for someone in a full time capacity or something, always put that in an internship in a work experience section, because it does count. Again, I'm not saying that they will count your work exactly, but what I'm trying to say is, if you put it on the project section, then as a recruiter, I might judge you as a person who has not ever worked, without the realization that you have worked maybe 2 months, 3 months. You have some bit of practical experience, right? So
Correct.
what we hire for is learning agility. So there are two things. One is ability to learn. Second is agility to learn. Agility is how well you can learn, unlearn, relearn, pick up new skills, what practical exposure you have. So you need to highlight that, right?
Mhm.
So similarly, always in the experience section, put in your internship. If you work full time, please put it. Even if you do some sort of an entrepreneurship, some sort of a freelance work, if you are making money out of it or something, if you have a digital presence, something you can showcase, feel free to put it, right?
Mm.
I would say,
Okay.
because it adds credibility to your profile, especially if you are a early professional. It gets you that advantage, right? So this is
Correct.
just a sample of the same one of the clients that I have. So you can see, the way it's written, and obviously it's pretty much detailed. It's all in bolds and visually appealing.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, this is how we structure it, right? So whatever roles you have done, you put it in a reverse chronological order. What it means is from latest to oldest. So if you see his profile, April to present is the latest, then
You have the
2018.
older ones coming below.
So it always don't go the other way. Always start from latest to oldest.
Oldest.
Yeah. So pretty much everything that I've repeated, like what all you should include, always include part-time, full-time internship, full-time jobs. Always mention the job title and departments. If you see here, senior associate is HRBP, HR intern, sales manager, right? So always put the job title. You always have the company name also. So if you look at it, right, Maruti or Shell India, and also the location. So Bangalore, Kolkata, Mumbai, right? Um, Always keep those things. Most importantly, start and end month and year. So if you notice April to present, April to May to 18, July 15 to June 17, so that I get to understand, okay, how long you are
Proper
working,
time period.
what time period worked. So that way. And obviously you have the key roles and responsibilities. So in I'll be covering that in the next point as to how well you can write your roles and responsibilities. Right. So this is pretty much
Yeah.
the overall structure and obviously achievements. If you achieve some sort of an award at your company or you've done something outstanding, you can always highlight that. Right. So now I'll take a pause before this is a very important topic on tips to write the professional experience. Any questions, Gautam, in the chat or you have till now?
So regarding the experience section, there's a question which says, which asks Mr. Amal is asking if he can add his family business to the experience section. Maybe he's worked or helped in the family business.
Correct. So I am very dicey on this because firstly, I think it does count as experience, but it depends on what sort of experience. Like a lot of people, I would no disrespect while it's your family's business, like they do an entitlement sort of a thing. Like they're the boss, they'll do everything. So that is not exactly work experience. Work experience, let's say you've done some sort of a practical work. Let's say you've gone out and done sales, or you've actually built something practical or of value. Then highlight. I'm not saying you
Mm.
can't, but the only thing is in the interview, you're going to get screwed, right? Because then the interview is going to ask you, what have you learned? And you've not learned anything and you just sat on your dad's or your mom's business and enjoyed. Then you're going to,
It's
uh,
gonna backfire.
yeah, it's going to backfire. It's like, putting an axe in your foot sort of thing.
Correct,
So
correct.
only if you've genuinely learned something, you can put it. Only if you genuinely learned. But if you have
Mm.
not, then please don't lie on your resume.
It's
That's what I.
always good to be upfront about what you know and what you don't.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I think the rest of the questions we have answered meanwhile while you have gone through the points. So I think we can continue. We are good to go.
Sure. So basically, in the work experience section, why I see it's the most important because obviously, when as a person, okay, now I've gone through your education, I've gone through your summary, I've gone through, okay, I now have a sense of who you are, right? But again, a lot of work experience does matter a lot. But again, if you're a fresher, that's a different story altogether, right? But let's say if you have worked, so work experience is where you highlight, your skill sets, your achievements, and what value you add, to the organization. So
Mm.
first is always write in bullet points. A lot of people write in paragraphs. Please don't do it. Always write in bullet points. Keep the points short and crisp. So if I look at the sample over here, nothing is gonna exceed more than 2 lines. Correct? So if you notice it, right? And it's not like the font is way too small. It's a very reasonable font. Even the font I can suggest you 10 to 12 for the main text, 12 to 14 for the headers. So
Oh, okay.
right? So if you look at it, pretty much, short and crisp. Another thing, put the most important points first, right? So let's say whatever your primary job is or your primary achievement is, always put that on the top of your resume, right? So always go in that order because when I read it, I will, let's say if there are 5 points, I'll pay the most attention to the first three and the least attention to the last two, right? So let's say
Right.
if it's his CV, we want to highlight, okay, that he's worked in Singapore. He manages the largest business unit at DBS, and quantitative. So he has worked for 12 crore. He's managed a 12 crore business for Maruti. Has worked with 180 plus dealerships. So you try to understand, and obviously the importance goes down and down, right? So
Mhm.
I'm not saying
Mm.
firstly put only important stuff in your CV, but even in that you have to prioritize what do you want to communicate. So important information first. And start with action verbs. So what are action verbs? Let's say interested with, bestowed upon, improved, leveraged, spearheaded, administered. So basically, rather, those are powerful words, right? Rather than saying I was responsible for, I did this. Rather than that, leverage these,
Action words.
developed, delivered, spearheaded, led. If you have led something, or worked on is still decent. Don't write supported. It's a very weak word. Support, you can maybe you just wrote one email, that is also support, right? So
Got
rather
it.
than going for responsible for support, and always try to mix up action verbs. Like a lot of people, what they do is responsible for 10 points, they will just write responsible for. That's very mundane. So always, even if you notice here, every action verb is different.
Correct.
Awarded, achieved, successfully delivered, efficient. So always start with these powerful words so that they highlight your skills. Another important point, if again it depends on, again, you guys are quite young in your career, so I don't expect big achievement, but always try to put quantifiable results. What I mean by that is a bit of numbers. So let's say, there's a way of putting it. Let's say I significantly reduced cost versus I led to a 35% reduction in cost. Which is better? The second portion, where I'm
Second one,
quantifying
yes.
it. And especially if your guys are in the finance world. Finance is all about numbers, 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 numbers. Right? So always try to put numbers into it. So let's say 650 plus employees, 12 crore, buying penetration of 35%, 100%, So always try to put quantifiable terms because, it adds a lot of value in your resume. So let's say a reduced turnaround time from 12 hours to 4 hours. It's a very positive, rather than saying I significantly reduced turnaround time. Significant, your definition of significant might be very different from my definition of significant, right? So
Correct.
always
Correct.
try to put quantifiable. And last, which I already shared, are always tailorize your content as per your job description. That let's say, uh, let's say this same person, right? He's an HR business partner, and let's say in a finance firm like a DBS or a Morgan or a GS is very different from an HR BPR to Google or at an IBM, right? Because the industry is very different. It will be very different in an FMCG. In FMCG, you are maybe working with blue collar workers who are workers at factory level, whereas in an IT company, you might be working with people who are white collar, who are developers, programmers. And in a bank, you might be working with people who are a mix, right?
Correct.
So in every industry, your skill set,
It depends.
yeah, it depends. So any question till now?
No, I think we are good to go.
Yeah. So now we move towards the last section, which is very important, is skills and competency. So again, so as I mentioned, ATS, which is the applicant tracking system, which is basically the software that analyzes your CV. So it's always good to mention whatever skills that you have. So let's say finance operations, client management, strategy planning, risk management. So basically these are just examples. So always put those. You can always create a separate section of, let's say, skill set portfolio or technical skill, and just list these skills. Firstly, it will add value to your CV. Second, it will make your CV ATS compliant. So let's say if the software will be able to read this better, right? So I always do it. Let's say there are 10 skills or 7 skills. I would add a skill set section like I've done here.
Okay. So these are like tags which help the
Correct.
software to
I
understand.
don't want to complicate it, but it is similar like how Google works, right? So Google uses search engine optimization, right? So how is it that Google has lakhs of results? So how does Google determine which goes on first page and which goes on the fifth page? It is based on
Correct.
SEO, which is a very complicated process. Even I don't know it full, but it's all about keywords. So it's all about keep
Correct.
on updating your keywords. So a lot of companies. So this is a full-fledged business which digital marketers do, which is SEO analysis. So
Correct.
even I
Correct.
have my own websites, even I'm SEOing it. So I have to publish articles every week or something, so that if someone Googles, it has to come on the top. Right? So similarly, ATS works in a similar fashion. right? And also
Correct.
improves your searchability. Last thing is also certification. So let's say there are a lot of, be it Coursera, be it Udemy, be it, there's so many courses that are there. So you can't put this in the education section because education is a full time or at least a part time sort of an education, right? So there's a separate
Mhm.
criteria that you can create is like certification section, wherein you can put whatever certifications that you have done throughout your career. So in this section, I actually took mine only. So if you notice, a lot of IBM is there because so these are all
Yeah.
the skill set that I have done. So I want to highlight that let's say I'm an HR professional, but I have done a certification in AI. I've done certification in data science because I'm keen about it. So now I can target for better roles. It's always good
Mhm.
to highlight those particular skill sets. So even if you've done
So
something from Coursera, Udemy, so you'll find a lot of courses, by Harvard, a lot of courses by Wharton, which are good universities, right? Which are my dream colleges. So whatever certifications you've done, highlight those certifications, right? So even in
correct.
finance, you have done maybe a workshop that you've attended, you have a certification for that. There
Correct.
are a lot of other things. A lot of people invest in the stock market. A lot of people have brokerage license also. So you can also sell.
Mhm.
I'm a licensed investor, right?
Mhm.
Or there are
Mhm.
so many courses there in finance world. There are
Correct,
countless.
correct. There are a lot of like SAP ERP systems wherein they learn about how to
Exactly.
manage the
Correct. You
company's
have
business
tally. You have
efficiently.
tally. You have tally. For
Correct,
example,
correct,
there are companies which you pay, which actually you do a paid certification for, right? So it
correct,
could
correct,
be what I'm trying to say. It could be theoretical. It could be practical. It could be technical. It could be software. It could be anything. But you can't put it in the education section. So that's why you should have a certifications sort of a section wherein you club all your uh, these activities.
Mhm. So certifications are important, especially in this time of COVID,
Yes.
when there are a lot of online certifications available. It doesn't make sense if you don't have any certifications in your resume.
No, it's okay. I mean, I feel it's okay if you have the right skill set. But yes, but it just shows, the extra mile that you've got. So, for example, there are a lot of people who work similar to my role, let's say in IBM, but how many have invested in learning? So let's say at IBM, so this is extra gyan I'm going to give. So at IBM, we have mandatory 40 hours of training every year.
Okay.
We call it
Mhm.
Think 40. So this is something that you have to complete. But there are some people who do above and beyond it. So let's say I did 120 hours, so I was awarded the IBM Super Learner Award, which is less than 10% of IBMers get it. So in a
Oh,
population of 350,000, you can. So it's more of a recognition that the company gives. So
correct.
so basically, then you can brag about it or you can highlight it, right? So then people also, even I was recognized by my leadership that okay, these are the people who have received it in India. Such a great achievement. But I'm trying to say that we are moving towards a skill-based economy. So now it's not
Mhm.
just your education that matters. So you might, so there's so many people who might even know Python with whatever you're doing. So
Correct,
it's
correct.
quite competitive, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And the last, again, I'm going to put this completely optional section is extracurricular activities. So I've just put a fancy name for it. It's basically extracurricular activities. That is something that you've done in addition to your education. It could be debate competitions, it could be sports, and again you can always put your interests and hobbies, so whatever you like to do, some languages that you know. But these are predominantly for international clients, let's say US or UK, because they like to know everything about you, not just your work. Brutally honest, in India market, optional. If you
Option.
have space, if you have space, put it. If you don't have space, don't put it. Like space also is like real estate, right? You have to be very cautious
Correct,
with
correct.
it. So
So there
again,
was one question related to the space. How many pages do you think a good resume should be?
okay, very good thing. I actually had feedback on a lot of your, the Lakshya students as well. And I've worked
Okay.
with people with 25 years of work ex. I'm going to cut it for you. One pager, if you're an early professional,
Mhm.
one pager. And for me, early professional is 0 to about 2 years. Correct?
Mhm.
Up to
Mhm.
you if you want to highlight something. Maximum of 2 pages, irrespective of your work experience. So I have a client works at Mercedes who had a 4 pager CV, and his justification was that he has 17 years of work experience. And I was like, boss, it doesn't matter. I have worked with people who are
Got
20,
it.
have 26 years of work experience. It will be two, right? So 2 pager is the max. Doesn't matter how much work experience you have. 2 pager is a max. For you guys, I would recommend a 1 page.
1 pager.
1 page.
Got it.
For the audience that I have now. Unless you have worked for, let's say, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, I can say, okay, go for two. But for the audience, I would recommend one.
But anyways, it's very important to keep the content of the CV crisp, clear, without any extra stuff. Correct. Even if you are 2+ years, it isn't bad to have a 1 page CV, provided that the content is rich and crisp.
Yeah, right. So what I'm going to do is, so firstly, thanks for that. Let me just see how much time we have, so that maybe I can do 1 or 2 quick reviews, and then we can leave it up for Q&A.
Yeah, I think it's already 8:20. So we could do one of the reviews, the one that you want to discuss the most. And we have a quick review. And the Q&A, we can set it for 5 minutes or something. I think that works. I would not want to waste your time also.
No, it's not about that. Maybe I can. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to, so firstly, don't take this to the heart. I'm going to start with, since we are short on time, how not to make a CV so that all the flaws are covered. And again, please don't take this, to the heart.
Not at all.
Right? You can see my screen?
Yes, I can. We can see your screen.
It doesn't matter what software you use. Some people use Word, some people use resume building tools. It's all up to you how you want to do it. So firstly, a waste of space, big flaw, right? I was there. I would put it in a banner format as opposed to putting so
listing
much
format.
You see, your house doesn't matter. We're not going to come to your house, correct? So only city, country, pin code doesn't. We don't want it. We just want it. Yeah, email ID should be there. Phone number should be there. Again, structure this quite well. So your entire page, you have pretty much nothing, right?
Correct.
Dedication, best performance, I would say this is a decent summary, right? I will not call it a bad summary. Neither will I call it a good summary. I think it's a very good summary. But what I would like, a bit of your personality traits and a bit of your skill sets, that what you have done. Or at least I should get to know what kind of a professional you are, because there's no designation, nothing is there. So I don't know if you're doing finance, what year are you studying in, what certification have you done, right? So you need to put in the designation, even if you're a student. So whatever you're currently doing, so dedicated innovation, excellent challenging fields, CA aspirant, keen to blah blah blah, or pursuing this with work experience, this articleship done here. So you need to add a bit of
be a bit more personal and specific.
So in one line, do I get to know who you are? No. So I should get to know you. At least I should get to know you, right? If you're in finance, if you're in HR, if you're in marketing, something like that. Education background. Again, I would recommend adding the percentages as we discussed, right? Adding percentages. I would say reasonable, but again, if you look at it, the spacing is completely off because you pasted an entire page on it. Technical skills. So this part I really like, that at least he has added the technical skills aspect to the CV. And again, so I'm assuming that whatever job he's looking for is a bit in the science field, so like biology, genetics, and other things.
Correct.
Right. I would like to have soft skills also, so that I understand what as a person you would be required for. Academic project, nice. I think it's good to have a bit of academia also there. Personal information, totally not required. So we don't want your date of birth. You don't need to tell your gender firstly. Avoid marital status. So these are very confidential things. That you should never disclose your date of birth, your gender, your marital status, because these are things which can be used even against you. What I mean by that is kind of hard to explain, but it adds biasness.
Correct. There's an undercurrent that actually flows. Correct.
So never put that. Never put your full address. Never put your date of birth. Never put your marital status. Never put your gender. Nationality is okay, but if you have put in city, comma, country, then it's already there. Hobbies you've added, it's okay, but firstly, your CV has already exceeded 2 pages. So it's a 4
Correct.
pages.
It's third page.
If I want to line space it, it will become 2 pages. So it's a waste of space,
Mhm,
right?
mhm, mhm.
Work experience. You've mentioned your work experience. You mentioned the company. I don't know what job designation were you in. I don't know what department you were in. I don't. You worked for 1 year, but when did you start? When did you finish? I don't have the month and year, right? And I don't have the job roles and responsibilities. This is my biggest concern. That okay, you have done. First, I don't know what you have done, right? And secondly, I don't know field promoter in newspaper work for 1 year. I mean, no offense, it's I just don't get to know anything. Field
Correct.
collection officer in work for 1 year. Again, I don't get to know. References are not required. I mean, if this
Okay.
would have been a CB in the 1980s or 1990s, it's okay. But generally, references is now gone. References is always on request. So let's say if I
Mhm.
want, I'll ask you, but references is just not required.
Not required.
Declaration. This is the reason I put pick this CV. Declaration is not required. I'm sorry, you're not a celebrity who has to sign it. Declaration is not required in any of the modern CVs that we use. It. So I understand where you guys come from because a lot of CVs are very old fashioned, right? So just like
Mhm.
you would not use a Nokia 33 100 now, you would want an iPhone or you would want a touchscreen phone. So my recommendation would be please move to the newer CVs. Google
Correct.
about them, how they look, how they feel. They will not have these sort of information over there.
And I believe we should also start moving towards LinkedIn profiles. How important would you say LinkedIn profile is in this time and age?
Very, very. It's like a digital CV. So I'll be honest. So let's say if I charge X amount of money for my resume building that I do for my clients, I'll charge the same for my LinkedIn clients.
Oh, okay.
So LinkedIn is more of a digital world. You can reach out. Best part is you can reach out to your recruiters directly. They can just
Mhm.
review your profile and get to know. For example, you reviewed my profile. I don't think you even went to my website. Just by reviewing my profile, you get to know a lot about me. It has recommendation. It has skill sets. Through LinkedIn, you can also you know apply for a job directly.
Mhm. It's lovely. So we have a few more questions coming in.
So what I'll do
Sh-
quickly is just I'll just share my LinkedIn profile and the
yeah,
website so that students can also check my profile out in the meantime. And if we run out of time, they can get to know about me, what work I do, and if I can be of any help, feel free to reach out.
sure, sure.
So yeah, we will take up some questions.
Yes, Karan. So there are some questions. How important is it to do certification courses for improving the CV?
Again, do certification or courses which are relevant to the job that you're applying for or the relevant to the skill set that you're looking for. Don't do it for the heck of it. That just because I want to fill up the certification section in my CV.
Mhm. Let's say a fresher is creating a CV and he does not have any experience. So should he have something as a section called work experience, or should he just skip it?
Have they done internship? Because I would assume that internship also calls as a work experience, and I don't think unless you are applying for an internship and it's a first CV, I can understand. You'll not be
Mhm.
there. But let's say you're applying for a final job, I would say that you would already have an
Okay,
internship
so
there.
internship can be considered as work experience and you can list it as work experience. But if you
Yeah,
are applying for an internship, then you can actually skip the
correct.
section.
Because you've not never worked, right? So
Correct, correct.
the idea is to get a job so that you can at least highlight something. But I would say internship, if you feel that work experience you don't want to write, you can write internship experience column. But what I'm trying
Mhm.
to say, a lot of people put it in the projects, which is very wrong. You can work on an internship project, but it is still an experience. So if you're
Mhm.
uncomfortable putting it under work experience, you can put it under uh, internship experience section.
Internship experience. You just need to change the name of the heading.
Yeah.
So there's one more question, one good question, I guess. Do the icons or graphic representations add value to the resume? And adding to that, what is the design element that you're speaking about? Is it the colors? Is it how they're spaced? Is it how the blocks are placed?
Okay, so firstly, I think it's all first aspect is how pleasing it is to the eye. So let's say if I were to look at your CV, how well structured it is. So the design what I look for is firstly the structure to it, the symmetry to it, Then is the visual appeal of it. See, I'll tell you, first is the content in anything. First is
Mm-hmm.
always the content. What design helps you get noticed? It and second thing, why I also feel is, again, this is a personal opinion. It's also a demonstration of the effort that you've put in. For example, when I look at X person CV and it's not in the right format, it's just like, for the heck of it, they've done it. And versus a CV which I feel is very well made. It's also about the effort that you put in. Let's say you have hired a professional, but still I value it because you've paid someone to do it for you, or you have bought a software to make it. So
Mm-hmm.
I value that work ethic. So even as a recruiter, my job is very easy. Let's say if I have to look at a CV with 5 font or which is all over the place, I don't care how good you are. But if I'm going to have a migraine reading your CV, I'm sorry, I will not read it. You need to understand, as a recruiter, I'm not obliged to read every CV. So
Correct, correct.
if your CV gives me a headache or I don't feel it good, this is what I'm trying to say. If you have a good profile, why do you want to let your design ruin it? Is my question.
Okay, so content and design actually are important stakes of the same
Correct. And
slide.
what I mean by that, you don't have to be fancy. What I'm trying to say, you don't have to be fancy. But
Mm-hmm.
what I'm trying to say, put it in a good structure, pick a decent font, don't waste space, don't make it too overcrowded. Make it legible and pleasant to the eye.
Got it. There's one more question. Could you suggest some good websites which can help the students create some, templates of CVs or resumes?
Okay. So I think if you Google, there are a lot of contributors that are there, who share CVs, sort of templates which are available on MS Word. You can leverage that. There are a lot of resume building tools. The Canva is one. I agree, but Canva has a bit of limitation when it comes to ATS and design bit. Although it looks quite good, but from an ATS perspective, it's a bit uh, difficult. But yeah, if you want to try out, definitely you can try out Canva. There are a lot of different resume building tools. A lot of them are international, so they're priced a bit higher because
Mm-hmm.
obviously you're paying in dollars and it's a subscription based thing. So, but in terms of free content, again, you can Google it. Yeah, you'll find so many templates out there which are
Right.
MS Word. Awesome. I would say avoid the extremes of Photoshop and graphic, unless you're a graphic designer. Avoid
Mm-hmm.
that.
Okay.
Anything in Word is fine. Anything in
I
those
think
sort.
Word itself gives out templates, correct? Resume templates. But I think they are limited, but
Yeah. So basically, for me, most of my all my resume, like personally, what I do is all my designs are in house. So either I use online tools, I customize everything as per my client and everything. But
Mhm.
I do it in house, and I have a team that makes designs just for this job.
Lovely. Um, there's also one question about how can we make CVs ATS compliant?
ATS compliant. Okay.
Yeah.
Correct. So again, there's no rocket science behind it. It's not like so again, there's a lot of drama about this particular thing. But if you ask me personally, from a professional perspective, it's all about uh, the keywords. So
Mm-hmm.
always go through the job description, highlight whatever skill sets are there, and if you have those skill sets, add it in your CV. So ATS will pick the text. ATS will not pick the design firstly. So if you put logos in your CV, it will not add value. I'm not saying that you
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't put, even I put, but I don't put it with the
Okay.
intention that ATS will pick it. So ATS only picks up the text. So your text needs to
Mm-hmm.
be good. Text needs to have the right skill sets, the right keywords, so that you rank high.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Yes,
how you make
Jaskaran.
it ATS compliant.
Lovely, lovely. So I think we'll be taking the final question for the day.
For sure.
Um,
I think we have about 3 minutes. I think it's 32. Let's keep it till 35. So why not?
sure. So there's one question. I heard that foreign recruiters look for different criteria in the CV, different from that of Indian recruiters.
Yeah,
Is
absolutely.
it a myth or is it a truth? Is the question.
It's a reality. It's a reality because abroad, the hiring happens in a very different way. So, first example, abroad, you need to send a cover letter. It's a mandatory thing. In India,
Mm-hmm.
very optional thing. Only my executive clients send cover letter. Otherwise, people generally don't. Their cover letter is a very mandatory thing. There, 80% of the people there have a one-pager CV. 80%
Mhm.
of third thing, abroad, they generally like to know not just about work, but a lot of other aspects. So they value a lot of hobbies, they value extracurriculars. They like, unless it's a very formal company, they also like a bit of informal way of writing also. But again, if it's uh, like a consulting or a finance or a that company, I would say IT companies are a bit more chill. That's what I want to say. And those core suit and ties companies would want more formal language, but overall they want to know a bit more about you, right?
Mhm.
So they want to know awards, they want to know, those sort of things. So it's a very different game altogether. But is it something that you can do? Yes, you can, because even I do it for people who are in Europe and other things. So it's doable. It's just about you have to understand what their market is.
Mhm.
Even we, like even software people develop software for US, right? How? Because you just need to know what they want and you can deliver what they want.
Correct, correct. So we give the requirements and they build it.
Yeah. So go through a bit of US CVs and what they look for, samples of that, and then apply.
Mhm. Right, right, right. So do you want to take one more question? Just one more?
Yeah, yeah, sure.
It's something about adding hobbies is of any use for CV. Does
Hobbies again.
adding of hobbies help in CV?
Again, I think I answered this when I said that in India it's not much
It's
value.
different, yeah.
It's only if it's a filler sort of a thing that you have some margin left, you can put it. Abroad, I would say that they evaluate a little bit better. So if you want to put, you can put maybe in an international scene.
Right. So there's one question that's very interesting because I do not understand what the question means. It says, do psychometrics test affect the chances of getting hired?
Yes. So basically, I'll tell you how it happens. So again, it depends on company to company. A lot of companies, what they do is they first screen the resume and then they go
Mm-hmm.
for testing phase, correct? Test
Mm-hmm.
basically. And then there are other companies who first do the test, and then only those who clear the test they will ask for their CVs. So that's the two
Okay.
mechanisms. Tests
Okay.
can differ, right?
Mm-hmm.
Every company has different testing. So at IBM we used to have a learning agility test, which is a psychometric test, correct? So I'll tell
Mm-hmm.
you what psychometric tests look for, correct? Psychometric tests only look for one thing, which is called honesty. In psychometric tests, you will have 50 questions. Let's say example, you'll have
Mm-hmm.
100 questions. Actually, it will be only 50 questions. Rest 50 questions will be molded like this. So if you have lied in the, like, let's say you choose B in the original one, and if you change your option, you're gonna get screwed. Basically, what will happen? It will show you a situation, let's say, wherein you want to be a leader,
Mm-hmm.
right? It will show you the same situation where you'll want to be a team player now, correct? So if you put the team player there and a leader there, then you're kind of get negative mark. But if you're consistent, then it helps. So basically, it's a hiring mechanism. So let's say if I do a psychometric test, so whoever clears the test only then will go forward. So does it affect the chances of getting hired? It's a qualifying criteria for you to get hired. So if you fail
Right.
the test, you cannot go ahead. But yes, if you clear it, then there are some companies who also look at the scores that you have. Others just look at it as a criteria that okay, you've cleared, let's go ahead. But there's some
Right.
people
It's a
who
first screening test.
correct, who will also, some hiring managers also want to look at the psychometric score itself. So it all depends. But basically, psychometric test is nothing but just be honest about whatever your responses are, and they'll just try to confuse you. That's what psychometric actually means. It's
Means.
gonna be a same question. It's gonna be twisted, wherein you'll not like the option that you've chosen,
Right, right,
and and you don't know which option is right. It's structured.
right. So that's about it, guys. Any more questions? We have had Mr. Jaskaran with us for over an hour now. We have got a lot of insights into how we should be able to present ourselves in the CVs and CVs and resumes are the first point of contact with potential, recruiters. So it's been a very good time. Thank you for so much of insight, Jaskaran. I believe we can actually take another session maybe in the coming weeks because I think cover letter is also something we can help out students with. Maybe
Yeah,
we can contact you and we
yeah,
can have a very fruitful session over this.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah,
Definitely,
you
if
would like to.
you use this session, you can also see the feedback of how the students like the session, didn't like the session. If you want me back, maybe then we can discuss it.
Obviously, it's all constructive feedback and it'll all help us. So anything to end off with, Jaskaran? Any conclusive words for the session that we had today?
Oh, firstly, I think thanks, Gautam, thanks, the entire Lakshya team, for having me. And I hope you guys, found this session worthwhile. And there's some bit of tips that would help you, in your CV journey. And again, if I've shared my, LinkedIn ID and my website with you. So if you want, you can also share it to the students. So in case, they want to reach out to me, feel free to. And yeah, last but not the least, I wish, each and every one of them the best of luck. And I think they do well wherever, they go and whichever career path they kind of choose. So, wish you guys all the very best.
And the same to you, Jaskaran. All the best for your Beyond CV
Thank you so much.
venture. Do your best, and we'll be in touch. And all the best from all the students and faculty and the whole management of Lakshya. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a very good session for the students, and meet you again.
Surely. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care.
Take care.